Hey, Jordan Hill Elementary School. My name's Wyatt, and I'm an entomologist at Active Pest Control. And I wanted to talk to y'all today a little bit about insects. So the presentation I'm going to be sharing with y'all is called Wyatt's Weirdness. I'm sorry I can't be there with y'all in person due to the coronavirus. We have to do things virtually, but I'll still try to make this exciting. I unfortunately cannot bring any insects to the school to show y'all, but I am going to teach you about some bugs through this presentation. The first thing I wanted to talk to y'all about was what an entomologist actually is. So I say that I'm an entomologist, but what does that mean? So that means that I study insects and their closest cousins, like spiders, scorpions, ticks, things called mites, and all sorts of other creatures that are related to insects, including things like shrimp, crab, and lobster. A lot of people don't realize how closely related those are to insects. Outside of that, in my everyday job at work, not only do I identify these different things for the people that I work with, but I also help keep the people safe when we apply products to get rid of those insects that may can harm us or compete with us for food. So we come in, we're pest control, and we get rid of the very small portion of insects that are pests. The insects that you might have in your house that you don't want there, or insects that may try to eat your food, or people think are dirty or nasty, or they may bite you or feed on you. Those are the insects that we try to control. But a huge population of insects that we actually have in the world are not harmful, and they're actually really beneficial. So let's learn about some of the really cool ones here today. Alright, so if there was any question of how much of a nerd that I actually was, this is my graduation cap from college. You can see that I had plenty of insects showing on the top of my graduation cap. Was not hard to pick out from all the other people that were around. Definitely didn't have an interest in insects before college, but took a couple of entomology classes, and if you ever have any questions, highly recommend taking some entomology classes, talking to advisors, and I'm free for questions if you ever want to pursue insects as a career. So the first insect I want to talk to you about is the Peruvian walking stick. Now this is a very pretty insect. It's this dark jet black color with these bright red wings and these huge yellow eyes. In captivity, there are even some Peruvian walking sticks that can have pink wings instead of red wings. Those are only found in captivity though, or as pets. They aren't found out in the wild. Now the Peruvian walking stick comes from Peru, which is a country in South America. We do not have this naturally here in the United States, but people do keep them as pets. This was one that the college I went to, the University of Georgia, kept as a pet to take out and show people and teach them about these insects. So, some cool facts about the Peruvian walking stick. They're nocturnal, so they are more active at night than they are during the day. It's, of course, safer for them because they're this dark black color, and so it's a lot safer for them to be out at night than it is during the day. If they were out during the sunlight, this would be very, very easy to see. But if it's dark outside, you wouldn't be able to see them. And if you did walk up on one of these, they would throw their wings up like this one's doing right here. What that Peruvian walking stick is doing is it's showing that bright red color to look like eyes in the night. So if a predator or something came up to eat this Peruvian walking stick and it threw its wings up, it would confuse its wings for two big eyes. And if it was to see that and it was like, wow, those eyes are big, how big does the rest of it have to be? And it could scare them away. If that wasn't enough to scare away the creature that was trying to eat this walking stick, they also have a defensive spray. Now that defensive spray smells a little bit like vinegar, and if you were to keep messing with it after it gave you the warning sign of holding its wings up and curling its abdomen over, it would release that defensive chemical to try to get you to go away. It would be like a human using pepper spray. Another cool feature about these walking sticks is that they're velvety soft. So they look really soft or smooth like a bunny rabbit, and if you touch them or rub them, they actually are soft like a bunny. They feel like they almost have a fur on the outside of them, which is uncommon for a lot of insects. Most insects don't feel like that, but Peruvian walking sticks are really cool, and they're really soft, and they make great pets. They eat plants instead of other animals. One other cool thing about the Peruvian walking sticks before we move on to something else is that the males and females look different. They're a different size and a little bit of a different shape, so you're able to tell them apart. Not all insects are easily told apart, and not all insects have both boy or girl, or male or female, insects. So, you have to be careful because the weird is contagious. This is my wife who didn't like insects before we got married, and here she is holding an insect, treating it like it's a pet. So do be careful. The weird is contagious if you hang out with me for too long. I would also never recommend holding one of these near your face because if it did decide that it wanted to release that chemical that I told you about, that would not be a good day for me. That would be like I got vinegar in my eyes, and that would not be fun. Alright, so a different type of walking stick that I want to tell you about. The other walking stick that we just talked about only comes out at night, has those big red wings, and a chemical spray for defense. This is a different type of walking stick. It's called the Malaysian leaf bug, and it's designed to look like a leaf. So one of the words you may have been taught in school or you may have heard somebody use is the word called camouflage. This is the main way that the Malaysian leaf bug stays alive. So it blends in with the leaves of the trees that it's feeding on through the process called camouflage. If a predator or a creature, animal, came up to eat the Malaysian leaf insect, it would start kind of rocking back and forth. And the reason it does that is it's pretending to be a leaf blowing in the wind. So the Malaysian leaf insect will actually rock back and forth like it's blowing in the wind. It'll hold its abdomen back here up in the air, and it actually looks like a leaf. It also has this brown coloration on its legs to look like a leaf that's kind of starting to rot or starting to fall off the tree, so that insects that or other animals that actually eat leaves are less likely to take a bite out of it as well. One cool thing about the Malaysian leaf insect is that they're all female in captivity, and most of the ones in the wild are also female. There's only been 2 males that are ever found. And remember, male means boy, and female means girl. So most of them are girls. There's not many boys that are around for the Malaysian leaf insect. Now that's a pretty cool feature that's unique or specific just to these bugs. That's not something that's common. Most bugs have a boy and a girl version. Not this one. One of the really cool things about the Malaysian leaf insect is that it's one of the largest known leaf bugs in the world. It's very sizable. They are from Malaysia, which is a country in Asia, and they can actually be pretty good companions or pretty good friends. So you see, this one here decided to crawl onto my face and act like I was a tree and it was a leaf hanging out. My wife did not agree with me doing this, but it's okay. This bug did not hurt me, but of course I would never recommend doing this with any bug that you find out in the wild, unless you know what you're doing. Now, I had worked with this insect several times, and I knew it wouldn't hurt me, but you wouldn't want to do this with any old bug that you just found outside. That could be very dangerous. Alright, so another type of walking stick that we're going to talk about is called the Australian spiny walking stick. Now this walking stick's really cool. Instead of acting like a leaf, or blending in with nighttime and having those red wings and defensive spray like the Peruvian walking stick, the Australian spiny walking stick looks like a stick. It looks like the branch of a tree or a twig on a tree. It'll hang out on the tree and pretend to be a stick, and it can even use the back part of its abdomen right here to look like a dead or dying leaf. If a creature were to bite the Australian spiny walking stick, you may find that it has these little thorns that are kind of hard to see in this video that would make it uncomfortable to bite onto. It also has spikes on its legs that can make it uncomfortable or hurt when something bites this insect. People who keep Australian spiny walking sticks in the United States, of course they're from Australia, the big island of Australia where the kangaroos are. In the United States, people who keep them, they feed them things like oak, rose, or different types of berries. And so that's pretty cool. They eat just a lot of the same things that we do. So their diet's not too different than people who eat blackberries or blueberries, and some people even eat roses, though I wouldn't recommend doing that because your parents will be pretty upset. The males and females of these do look different. So remember I told you before, all of those leaf insects are all female, or all girls. Well, the boys and girls of the Australian spiny walking stick do look different. So the female, or the girl, has these very short, round wings. The boy would have wings that were almost as long as its body that could actually help it kind of fly. The girl could not fly because her wings are too small and it couldn't get her off the ground. Another insect that we're going to talk about is the Madagascar hissing cockroach. Now, this is my wife. She's really scared of bugs, and she doesn't like roaches. Most people probably don't like roaches, and normally I would ask y'all who in here does like roaches or who in here doesn't like roaches. But since I'm not with you, I'm just going to assume that most of you probably don't like roaches. My wife is the same. She cannot stand roaches. And so I put this up here, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, because she was really scared to hold this Madagascar hissing cockroach. And she actually did shed a couple of tears after holding it in this photo. One thing I wanted to tell y'all though, the biggest portion of roaches that we have, probably 99%, which is a lot, are not actually pests that get into our house. They don't hurt us, they don't compete with us for food, they're actually harmless to us. It's a very, very small percentage, a very, very small amount of roaches that are actually considered pests or that could hurt us or do harm to us. The Madagascar hissing cockroach, if you've never held one, is really cool. If you scare it, it's got these little dots back here on its abdomen called spiracles, and it'll push air out of those really, really fast, and it makes a hissing noise. You know what? Noise, like air being released. And that will scare something that tries to eat it or tries to mess with it. And so sometimes when people pick them up, it'll make that same noise, and it's scared me a couple of times. You know, you go to pick it up and and you're like, whoa, what was that? And it sounds like air being released from a tire. So we don't have Madagascar hissing cockroaches outside of being pets here in the United States. They're from the island of Madagascar. They do feed on all sorts of different material, and they're really easy to keep as pets. Something else that's kind of unique or specific to cockroaches is that they don't lay individual eggs, and they don't have babies like humans do. They actually lay an entire case that has all the eggs inside of it. Think of it like your mom's purse or wallet, and inside is where all the eggs are kept. And then once all the eggs hatch, they come out of the wallet, and you have all of the Madagascar hissing cockroach babies. That special egg case, I'm going to teach you a fun term here, is called an ootheca. Now that's a fun term you can go around saying and teaching people about. Not a lot of people know what that means, and so you can teach them a new word, all specific to roaches and praying mantises. So Madagascar hissing cockroaches are really cool because they also live together in colonies, and they depend on one another and they help each other. So roaches, as much as we think they're gross, they actually think we're gross. And if you touch a roach, it will actually go to its colony members and they'll start cleaning it. So Madagascar hissing cockroaches actually think that we're nasty just like we think they're nasty. And it's pretty cool. If you've never seen a roach clean itself, or its colony members clean it, they'll actually take their mouth parts and they'll start, cleaning it because that's all they have, kind of like a dog licks its puppies or a kitty licks itself to clean itself. The Madagascar hissing cockroach doesn't have a tongue, but it does have mouth parts like our mouth here, and it'll actually start to take pieces of its body and pull them through its mouth part to clean it. The next arthropod that I want to teach you all about, this one's not actually an insect, is called a tailless whip scorpion. So this one is about as big as the palm of my hand, almost as big as both of my hands put together. So I studied abroad in Ecuador and the Galapagos, which is part of South America. There are countries in South America and islands off the coast of South America. Well, while I was in Ecuador, we were out in the middle of the night. You can see around me in this photo, it's all dark and black. It was probably 3 in the morning, and we're out on this trail. And we come across this tailless whip scorpion here that looks very scary, but is 100% harmless, and it didn't mind having its photo taken. But they're active at night, they're called nocturnal, they don't want to be disturbed, and so it was fine having its photo taken, but once I was holding it and it was scared, it thought I was going to eat it, and the photo went off, the flash, the light from the camera went off. Once our eyes readjusted to the dark, we had no clue where it went. I looked back down at my hands and it was gone. I couldn't figure out where it was. We're looking all around, and I hear the guide that I'm with start screaming at me in Spanish. and I had no clue what was going on, and I turn around, and this was on my back. It had run up my arm and to my back, and was hiding out there trying to get away from the light. So when the camera went off, the light scared it, and it saw its opportunity to get away, and so it ran and hid on my back, thinking that it was a nice, safe place to be. Outside of that, these creatures are not going to harm you in any way, shape, or form. I know they have the word scorpion in their name, but unlike scorpions that we have here in the United States, this isn't actually a scorpion. It's just the common name of this creature. It actually doesn't have a stinger and can't do anything to hurt me. What this arthropod actually has are these really cool mouth parts that it can use like hands to pull food to its mouth. If anybody in here's ever watched Harry Potter, this is the creature in Harry Potter that they hold in the palm of their hand while they're in class, and they cast a spell on it. So this type of creature right here has even been shown in movies before. It's kind of cool to think about. Tarantulas also need love. So here's my wife, again, totally scared of spiders and insects and other arthropods, and she's holding this rose hair tarantula. Now, a spider is never anything I would recommend anybody in here ever try to hold without adult supervision, and an adult who knows what they're doing, watching you do it. But tarantulas are actually not as scary as they seem. Their venom from their bite actually cannot kill us. It's not strong enough to kill a human. They use their venom to take down smaller prey so that they can eat it and they can survive. So just like lions will eat other animals, tarantulas will eat other smaller animals. But there are some tarantulas in other countries like South America that can be as big as a small puppy. It's called a Goliath bird-eating spider. And they can get large enough to actually eat birds. And you can hear them walking across the forest. That's one of the things I wanted to find when we went to South America, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get a hold of. But they are very cool, and they can make really good pets once you get older. So vinegaroons are another type of creature I wanted to tell you about. They are not harmful either. Normally they would have a really long tail sticking off the back here, and that allows them to shoot something that smells like vinegar. And that's how they get their name vinegaroon. Now this one had its tail removed, which is not the nicest thing to do. It wasn't removed by us. We got it that way, to take care of it and save it, much like you get a puppy from the pound. Now this vinegaroon here cannot shoot vinegar anymore. But if you did have one that could, you wouldn't want to touch it or you wouldn't want to mess with it. If you ever found one of these down in Florida, we do have these here in the United States. And if you were to disturb it or you were to mess with it or scare it, it could shoot you with vinegar, and that wouldn't be fun. That would be a very bad, painful time. But they also use that spray to keep them from being eaten by other insects or other arthropods or other animals. And so that's one of the cool defense mechanisms that something like a vinegaroon has. So millipedes are really cool, and they have many, many, many little legs on their body. And so if you ever find millipedes outside, they're harmless for you to touch and handle. Just be sure you wash your hands afterwards. You do want to wash your hands. They can release a chemical that wouldn't be good to eat, but just to play with and touch, they're not going to do anything to you. You do need to be careful, though. We do have what's called centipedes here in North America. And the difference in a millipede and a centipede is that centipedes can actually inflict a venomous and painful bite, while millipedes can't. Millipedes will roll up into a little ball, and they'll curl up and try to hide from you. And they'll release a chemical out of their body that as long as you wash your hands, you're fine. But millipedes are really, really beneficial. So you may have learned about fungi or mushrooms in some of your classes before. And mushrooms take dead and decaying material, and they feed on them, and they recycle nutrients back to the earth. They give back to the earth. Well, millipedes do the same thing. They're called decomposers, and they help break down things that shouldn't be there anymore. They help give some of that fuel back to the earth so that it can be reused and repurposed. So millipedes are a good thing to have around, and they're a great pet to keep if your parents will let you. Of course, always get parent permission before you keep any insect or arthropod as a pet. But millipedes are really cool creatures to keep as pets, and they're really beneficial to have around in your yard. Now, if you get hundreds of millipedes inside, that can actually be an indication or, show you or teach you that you have some sort of moisture problem going on. These arthropods really, really like water. And so if you have too much water in a specific area, you can actually get 100 or 1,000 millipedes built up in a very small area. And that can tell you that you have some sort of water leak going on. So it's always good to watch out for different insects and arthropods. And remember, I told you, they're not all out to get us. They're not all out to hurt us. It's a very, very small portion of insects and arthropods in the world that are considered pests. And they can actually be beneficial and teach us different things. And the last insect that I want to talk to y'all about today, the last bug that I want to talk to you about today, is the praying mantis. So I started talking to you about how insects can be helpful or good, or another word that you could use there is called beneficial. Praying mantises fall into that category. So praying mantises are really good to have around our houses. They're nothing to be scared of, and they eat bad bugs that are around. So praying mantises will eat things like cockroaches, or they'll eat other insects that may hurt us or sting us, like honeybees. Now, bees are also good to have around, and wasps are also good. But praying mantises, if you're scared of those things, can actually eat them, and they can help protect your yard from them, and they can help protect you from them. Uh, Other areas where praying mantises are actually good to have around are in gardens. So your parents, if they have any gardens, vegetables, or fruits, they may want praying mantises around because they'll actually eat other insects that may eat their fruits or vegetables. Now, I have a really bad habit of holding random bugs that I find outside. You definitely don't want to do this again unless you know what you're doing and you have an adult around with you. Make sure you always have an adult who knows what they're doing around before you ever try to hold any insect or any bug like I'm doing here. Praying mantises do have little spines on the back of their leg, and if you're not careful, they can poke you with them, and that doesn't feel good. It's like being poked by a needle or by a little thumbtack. So definitely don't just go around picking up random bugs like I do. Hopefully, I've helped teach y'all some different things about insects today. Again, I really wish I could have been there in person to teach y'all about these different insects and arthropods. I wish I could have brought some of the really cool insects or arthropods that I have. I actually have insect collections and other things, so maybe next year I'll have a chance to come actually talk to y'all in person. I do want to say one more thing before I go. I'm so grateful that y'all allowed me to talk to you today and that you took the time to listen to me teach you about different insects. I really hope that you may decide to study insects in the future, and if you ever decide to do that, or you ever want to talk to me about them, I'm open to talk to. I will help teach you about any insect that you want to know about, and I'll tell you about different careers that you can pursue, relating to insects. So please, if you ever have any questions, let Miss Corey know so she can let me know. And outside of that, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you again, Jordan Hill Elementary School.